2, 1. On this episode of Coming Soon to Orlando, we're diving into local initiatives that are going to be on the ballot in November that will affect you if you're a homeowner or you are renting in the area of Orlando. We're also going to talk about how Disney is starting to make some changes to the annual pass program. Stay tuned. Is this your first time here watching our channel? Well, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. I'm putting out multiple videos every week regarding real estate, theme parks, and living life here in this amazing city of Orlando. All right, let's get into the first story. So the first story tonight has to do with the voting season that is upon us. We are just a few weeks away from the state voting and a lot of different things. And I am not a political guy either way. I'm not going to tell you to vote one way or the other, but I do want to give you some facts as it relates to being a homeowner and a renter here in the city of Orlando and Central Florida in the 5 county areas, and how that's going to affect you should these things go through or not. So beyond the governor, the senator, all that kind of stuff, we're going to leave that aside and just talk about the amendments to the Constitution that will affect us all. So number 1, the constitutional amendments, Article 7, Section 4, they're basically going through and saying that if you are improving your property and trying to prevent flooding at your property, so that's drainage around your house, that's different things that you can do to your home, maybe it's even propping up your house. There's a lot of people doing excavation work around their house and adding ponds and just doing different things to keep water away from your house. Well, currently, if you file a permit for that, the next year is going to come around, your house will be reassessed at a higher rate because you've made an improvement to your home that causes your taxes to go up and that sort of thing. So the state got together and they said, what if we made it to where if people had these cost preventative or flood preventative measures done to their house, that we actually wouldn't raise their taxes? This makes a little bit of sense to me, especially with all of the damage that we had in Florida from Hurricane Ian. The state is saying that this is going to cost them somewhere between $5 and $6 million in revenue in year 1, and somewhere around $25 to $30 million at year 5 plus. And so I think that this is going to be an interesting thing to see which way Florida goes. I think that having this be voted on right after a storm, my thing is probably will go through. All right, so the third addendum to the Constitution here in Florida, and I skipped over 2 because it had nothing to do with real estate, but the third one has to do with adding a second $50,000 homeowner's exemption to the property tax for basically, we'll call it our hometown heroes. People like law enforcement, teachers, active duty military, National Guard, enforcement officers, a lot of people here locally that if they own a house, any value over $100,000 in their assessed value up to $50,000 would be essentially tax deferred or tax free as long as they own the house. And so if you think about this, they've got their Homestead Exemption, so meaning that it's not an investment property, it's not an Airbnb, it's not a second home, they live there, they get $50,000 off just like everybody. But if you're a teacher or one of these other things, you get an additional $50,000. And so they're saying that this is going to cost the state something like $100 million in revenue in year 1, starting January 1st of next year. And there was some dissension. There was one guy out of West Palm Beach that said, hey, we should focus more on affordable housing and not really care about these folks in this way. So it's up to you as a Florida voter. Do you think that this is something that you want to see, or do we think our focus should be elsewhere? Let me know down below. The next thing on the ballot that really affects everybody in Central Florida, but is really only on the Orange County ballot, is how we deal with sales tax. They are looking to raise sales tax from the 6.5% that it is currently up to 7.5% starting next year. Now, Mayor Demings and the county said, hey, listen, we want to add this 1%, put together a trust, and use this for infrastructure only. And now we're growing like crazy. And if you look on Reddit or many other blogs about Orlando, people complain about the traffic. In my opinion, it's gotten significantly better over the past couple years, but when you have 1,500 people moving to Central Florida every single week, it's going to get a little stressed out. And so they're going to use this extra penny per dollar to put towards infrastructure. Now, conversely, the people that are very against this are saying, hey, everything else is already super expensive. Now, everything else I'm going to buy that has sales tax is just going to be 1% even more expensive. You look at our real estate boom that we've had over the past 5 years, and real estate taxes are definitely bringing in more revenue than they ever have before. And so they're like, why don't you just use some of that money towards the infrastructure? So that's kind of like the idea. That's the 2 sides of the aisle. Let me know what you think down below. All right, so the last measure on the ballot as it relates to real estate is the rent stabilization ordinance that Orange County wants to impose on multifamily dwellings here in the Orlando area. Now, if you look at Orange County in general, rent prices have been skyrocketing for the past few years. I actually did a call, and we're going to be talking about this on our next story regarding rent specifically, so stay tuned. But if you look at what's going on in the rental market right now, basically what they want to do is take a 1-year hiatus and say you cannot raise rents higher than the CPI, which is the Consumer Price Index. Essentially, right now, it's about 8% is what the government says, that everything is more expensive by roughly 8%, so your rents can go up by 8%. The initial iteration of this Rent Stabilization Act was really for anybody that owned more than 5 units. And now that's kind of come down. They've gotten rid of vacation rentals out of it. They got rid of single family residents out of it. And it's really targeting multifamily properties. But let me explain to you both sides of why rent control may be good or may be bad. If you're thinking about it as an investor, if I owned an apartment building and I want to go drop 300 units in the city of Orlando or somewhere within Orange County, am I going to do that knowing that my pricing is going to be fixed, that I'm not probably going to get the greatest return on investment? This could actually cause investors to leave Orange County and pull out in different areas, making the supply even harder for people that are trying to move into Orange County. So it really is a double-edged sword when you think about rent stabilization in general. That being said, the state of Florida has a law in place that does not allow counties to do rent stabilization other than in times of emergency. And so they're looking at trying to pass this and call it basically, hey, we are in this unprecedented times, crazy high inflation, the highest inflation that we've had in 40 years. And so that this rent stabilization is needed at least for the next year. So let me know down below, what do you guys think? So what actually is going on with the rental market here in Central Florida? So I actually polled 2 of the property managers that I know personally that individually manage over 1,000 properties, single family properties between the 2 of them. And I called them up and I said, hey, listen, what are you seeing in terms of applications? Are people starting to still move from here from the coast, maybe from Ian, or are people just flocking here and saying, wow, 7% interest rates buying, I would rather just rent, or maybe they want to rent and just figure out the area, one of many, many different things. And what I'm hearing is that the applications currently today are still as many as they were 3-4 months ago. So the demand there is still very, very strong. From there, I actually called 7 different apartment buildings all around Central Florida, from Celebration to Maitland to Winter Park, Claremont, Winter Garden, all over, just asking them, hey, do you guys have any incentives? And resoundingly, they said no. B, do your rates today reflect the same that they were a year ago or even 6 months ago? All of them said that they had at least 10% increase in rents. And so when you're thinking about, do I want to buy, do I want to rent? I know there's a lot of factors to consider. I'm not the guy that says that everybody should buy every single time, right? But if you look at it from a cash flow perspective, or if your monthly bills are going to go up next year or not, buying a house does give you an opportunity to lock in that opportunity, that rate. You can always refinance as rates come down, get a cheaper payment, but with renting, predominantly, those prices continue to go up. Are you one of those people that loves Disney and you have been waiting for the annual passes to go back to the way that they were? Well, I don't think that everything is going to go back to the way that it was, but maybe you already knew that the Pixie Pass was available. That's that Monday through Friday, no weekends kind of pass with Disney, was available for Florida residents. But what you might not know is, as I'm talking to more and more people, there's a bunch of people that have just now found this out, that there's 2 cool ways that you can upgrade this. Number one is that towards the end of your pass for the annual pass, you can actually upgrade when it's time to renew. And so you'll get a discount and you can upgrade to whatever pass you want on top of that. The second thing is Disney's telling us through their cast members that as Disney rolls out more and more annual pass options for Florida residents and non-residents, they are going to allow you to cash in your credit for that $3.99 you paid for the Pixie Pass towards the next level. So even if you got it 3 months ago, once they start rolling out these new ones, you can use it as a credit. They haven't given us a date on when that might be, but it's something to look forward to. The holidays are upon us, and there's a lot of cool stuff going on here in Central Florida. And if you're going to be in town, or you're looking to buy or sell, invest here in Central Florida, my team and I, we'd love to be your real estate resource of choice. So make sure you reach out at info@positgroup.com, and we'll get the process started. We'll see you guys on the next video.